One time I was modeling my company's product in a fifth grade public school classroom here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I asked what I thought was a simple question to activate background knowledge to the classroom. I said, "What part of the United States are we? The East or the West?" I kid you not, 4 or 5 students shouted, "East!" and no one else corrected them. My name is Coral, and I am here to relate with you on common homeschool mom life and to help you through the process of creating the best education for your kids. Now today, I am going to do a flip through and overview of the U.S. Geography, a literature approach to primary grades by Beautiful Feet.
This is the teacher's guide. There are 5 different parts. The first part is just an introduction to geography. Part 2, 3, and 4 then moves into the piece where it incorporates the storybooks. So this is a nice overview on how to use this guide and the different components in the guide. I do like that it mentions that it is meant to be an introduction to geography and that there is not one exact way to use this that is flexible in how it is used. This is not a scripted program where you are going to follow it exactly the way it tells you to. So by knowing that in advance might help you in your decision on whether you want to use this and will it fit you. Then within the lessons, it gives you some dig deeper sections. The explore the world are some getting out of the house and doing things that you can do outside the house. The culinary connections gives you some recipe ideas that relate to the states that you're learning about. Lots of maps are incorporated in the book, but this is the map right here that has a big, large map of the United States that your student or child will be coloring and notebooking on. It then recommends a notebook. So this is our notebook that we chose, just a blank notebook. It has lots of different links to videos for you to actually see what mountains look like, oceans look like, and learn through videos. There is an additional picture packet, Bible verse memory work that you can download with this QR code. Now, this is the core literature that is used with the curriculum. So there's a map on my lap, geography from A to Z, the United States Activity and Fact Book, our 50 States, a Family Adventure Across America, and then this is our storybooks. Grandma Gatewood Hikes the Appalachian Trail, Mike Fink, Follow the Drinking Gourd, I Can Read Wagon Wheels, Apples to Oregon, They're Off the Pony Express, and The Southwest Sunrise. I will be discussing a little bit about how I am going to be utilizing this with my son, who is an early 5-year-old, so really beginning kindergarten skills. And so I did make some adjustments to even the core materials. So I am not going to be using this United States Activity and Fact book. I liked some of the coloring aspects that were in it, but not necessarily all the word searches, since my son can't read the facts. So I am taking that away. I also have a substitute for this, which it talks about in the next page. But again, because my son is early kindergarten, he really doesn't have a grasp of, what history means, a lot of facts that are in here, and he's just not quite ready to, retain a lot of this information that's in here. So I'm gonna do something different for that. The other substitute I made was this book, They're Off the Story of the Pony Express. So when I did see some reviews of this book, I saw that this book has a lot of words in it, and it was going to be a bit too difficult for a kindergartner. Maybe a third grader would be able to handle it, but it seemed to me that it would be difficult. So I substituted it with this I can read book, Buffalo Bill and the Pony Express. So this is a level 3 reader book that I think will be a lot easier for us to read. So I just do a quick flip through of this one. It still has, you know, some great, it has a map in there that we can talk about, the map of the Pony Express. And we can learn about the story, but without as many words as are in this one. And, you know, a lot of this curriculum does have you reference maps that are in these books. So if I need to just pick it up in order to look at the map, you know, I could probably just get it for that purpose. Or my thought is that there are probably maps of the Pony Express that I can find online, and we can just use that for referencing whenever we're doing the notebooking component in the 50 states big map that we're doing. Some additional resources you could use here. So this is where I am substituting the Fact 50 book, and I'm using this book, 50 Adventures in the 50 States. So instead of focusing on several different facts that you could learn about each state, I am going to be using this book, 50 Adventures in the 50 States. This is nice because it has just one page spread for every state. So, and looking at Alabama, you are only learning about one fun adventure that you can do in that state. So in Alabama, it's climbing giant boulders. Okay. In Kansas, it's hiking through the tall grass prairie. So I just think that this will be a little bit easier for us to focus on one component of every state and making it fun, like thinking of adventures that we can have in any state that we decide to visit as he grows up. And that's something that I want to do with my son and daughter, is travel through the states. And so this will just be a really fun, it's our own adventure through each of the states and thinking about what we could do when we visit those states. So it gave some other references in books that you could use, but that's the one that I chose in order to substitute the 50 States book. So then you get into part 1, and this is just the introduction to geography. So this section I have already done with my son so far. It was a lot of fun. I will say I did not go in the order that it told me to do. It just did not quite work for us for just a variety of reasons. But this lesson 1 was actually really fun. We did a little bit easier variation of it, but it was about teaching about the sun and where it rises in the east and sets in the west. And you actually woke up in the morning and found where the sun was and put the sun where it needed to go. You drew a picture of it and then taped it to the wall and started learning that that's east. And then you did it again in the evening. You drew a picture of a sun, pasted it on the wall, and talked about west. So it's focusing on some of these core geography terms, such as directions. Lesson 2 focuses on learning how to use a compass or a compass app. Lesson 3 focuses on giving directions and how to give directions. It also has you introduce There's a Map on My Lap book for the first time. It also introduces this geography from A to Z picture glossary and has you look up some words in there and do some notebooking. And it has you use a globe to look at the different continents And also in the Dig Deeper section, it teaches you about oceans. Lesson 4 moves into more study in the There's a Map on My Lap book. It then has you make your own map of your bedroom. My son had a lot of fun with this. I will show that notebook later. Lesson 5 has you do more pages in the There's a Map on My Lap book. It also has you introduce the Our 50 States, A Family Adventure Across America book. That is the book that I skipped, so I did not do that step. And then you get to unfold the United States map, and the student gets to label their home state, the town that they live on, and draw a small house to represent your hometown. And then they also use watercolors or color pencils to color the borders of the map along the oceans blue. And that is the end of part 1, which is really just an overview of some of those core concepts of geography. Part 2 covers these following states. Now, the very first lesson in part 2 is a little bit different. First, you are looking up the following terms in geography from A to Z, recording them in a notebook: highland, mountain, and hill. Then you are going to be introduced to the book Grandma Gatewood Hikes the Appalachian Trail. And it just has you in this lesson open up the book to the map on the first page. So in this lesson, you're not reading any of the story yet, but you are looking at the map of the Appalachian Trail, and then you are plotting this map of the trail and the mountains on your United States map that's included with the curriculum. The rest of the lessons follow a very similar pattern in that you're going to read a portion of the book, Grandma Gatewood Hikes the Appalachian Trail, but not all of it. You will use your 50 states book to learn about each of the states that you're focusing on in the lesson. So again, for me, instead of using the recommended 50 states book, I'm using the additional resource that they recommend as an option, and we're going to just focus on the states that they say in this book. We'll do some notebooking with that book, some drawing, some coloring, and we'll still look at some of the basics, such as the capital of the state bird, the state flower. We won't be focusing on any history or facts. Then as you're reading through and learning about each of the states, you will be coloring the state pages in your activity book. And again, I won't be doing this component because we don't have the activity book. We'll just be doing our own notebooking in this book, in this notebook. And then you're also looking up different terms in the geography from A to Z. And that is pretty much the pattern for all of part 2. Now, surprisingly, my son is really enjoying the notebooking component. I had no idea he would be so excited about it. So I think this is going to work for us. We have only done the first lesson in part 2 as I'm recording this video, but he gets really excited to do geography because he gets to do the big map and he gets to use his notebook. So before I go over part 3, I did want to show some of the notebooking that we're doing so far. So you can see his compass that he drew. We did the map of a bedroom in that introduction, part 1 to geography. You can see he drew his bunk bed, so him and his sister share a room. So he did his top bunk with Batman and his sister's bottom bunk with flowers, and I did do the labeling for him. Then we were able to just use the big map of the United States to trace the state of Nevada that we live in and find where our city is, Las Vegas, and put the house right there. And I decided that when we do notebooking, I would start doing the actual journaling component for him, just so that we could really record, what we did. This was also in the introduction when we were reading there's a map in our lap book. We learned about legends. And so he copied one of the maps, made his own legend on hot and cold. He actually wrote his own, he copied hot and cold. And we're just now about to start learning to read. So this was actually really perfect because I was able to use a map to teach him some of these basic CVC words. And that's one of the first words he's ever learned. And then he ended up on his own decision copying it on the map. Then, a big component in part 2 is looking up words in the Geography to A to Z book. And so, one of the words was mountain, so he drew the mountain. Hills, he drew his own hills. And highland and lowland, he drew his own there. Now in part 3, you can see the states that you will be covering in part 3. We'll be using 2 storybooks, and the first one will be Mike Fink, and the second one will be Follow the Drinking Gourd. Part 3 is not the same as part 2. It moves a little bit quicker through the book, so I'll show you. It does still start with your rabbit trails of the different books you can check out of the library, based on the different states that you are learning about. You get the culinary connection, a dig deeper section as well. Then in lesson 17, it is having you introduce Mike Fink. And again, you are looking at the map at the end of the book. And then you get to label and color the Ohio and Mississippi River on the United States map. You then learn about Mike's travels that took him into the deep south, and you will label Mississippi and Louisiana. You will learn about Mississippi and Louisiana in your activity and in your 50 states books. And then you will color Mississippi and Louisiana in the map. And in lesson 18, you will actually read the entire story of Mike Fink. You will do more looking up of the geography from A to Z, learning those terms and recording them in the notebook. You will learn more about the states that you're learning about or that Mike Fink is journeying in the story. And then do the mapping of each of those states. In lesson 19, you will read the entire story of Follow the Drinking Gourd. One of the focuses on lesson 19 is focusing again on directions using the sun. So just like in lesson 1, where you're learning about where the sun rises and sets, now you're learning a little bit about how to use the stars for directions. You will then plot on the United States map. You will trace the family's journey from western Alabama to Tennessee, across the Ohio River, through Ohio and across Lake Erie. There's some discussion prompts and another explore the world idea. Lesson 20 and 21 are the final 2 lessons in this part, and you're just looking up the rest of the states and learning about them in this particular section. Now, part 4 is going to start feeling pretty familiar to the previous sections. You will use 2 books to cover this portion of the United States. We are now heading to the West. The first book that you're going to go over and you're going to read through is Wagon Wheels. This is based off a true story of a family who is heading west after they learn about the Homestead Act. The next book you're going to read in part 4 is Apples to Oregon, which is about the Oregon Trail. And you will be plotting the Oregon Trail on the map. Now, in this part is a little more similar to part 2 in that you are not reading the whole book in 1 or 2 lessons. You do break apart the books again over the course of a few lessons. And again, you are plotting on the United States map, you're using your activity book, you're learning about each of the states in the section. Okay, lesson 25, you introduce apples to Oregon. Again, all of the same culinary connections, digging deeper and explore the world ideas. Part 5 is the final part of the curriculum where you will study the following states. You will first read the Pony Express book. I did, again, substitute it with Buffalo Bill in the Pony Express. And you will end with this book, The Southwest Sunrise. Okay. So you have the rabbit trails again. You do spend 3 lessons reading over the Pony Express book. I think that will be perfect with the book that I substituted it with. I do see they have a map of the Pony Express right here, right in the teacher's guide. So we will be able to plot that on our map. And again, as you're reading through the states in the book and the states that you're studying in this portion of the United States, you will plot it into your map. You will do your coloring pages, your notebooking activities, and all the other components. Lesson 34 through 36 is the Southwest Sunrise, which is a story of a boy who has to move out west and is not happy about it. And that is the end of the curriculum.
When I think about my kids' early elementary education, I want them to have foundational knowledge in a variety of topics, and one of those is geography. I am really hopeful that this curriculum is going to be a great introduction to these concepts of geography, and that it's going to be really fun and bonding time with my son for his kindergarten year. If you found this video helpful, please like this video, and if you are interested in purchasing this curriculum now after watching my video, I am an affiliate of Beautiful Feet, and if you click on the link below and purchase the curriculum, it does help me and my family. Thank you.